Welcome back to the Kun-Lai Campfire. My name is Boximus, and I am joined by guests Jikai and Skoll shorties to talk about some World of Warcraft lore today. Welcome, my friends.
Why, hello.
Hello there.
Oh, how dare you enter this chat with an Obi-Wan Kenobi quote, Skoll shorties.
I'll do it again.
I'm gonna drop the voice. Welcome everybody back to the Kun-Lai Campfire. Start this week off. I just want to say thank you guys for the support on last week's episode. I apologize for not uploading these for a year. Skoll and Kai have messaged me wanting to do it, and I dropped the ball before, so we're gonna get these back on track. But we have a fun topic today. We're going to be talking about our speculation for 10.0 because I think that's a very popular topic in the Warcraft community right now. I think a lot of players are... I think some are excited for the ending of Shadowlands and some just want to be done with it. I don't think anyone will disagree, though, that the notion of 10.0 sounds incredibly interesting. Depending on how Shadowlands ends, I see ourselves going towards like a world revamp next expansion. There's new assets being created. I've seen that on many YouTubers' pages. And I think they've slowly been building for it, like during Battle for Azeroth as well, updating a lot of the assets. But yeah, I'm going to throw this one to you first, Kai. I want to know what you think 10.0 is going to be.
What I think it's going to be is, I think you're right on the money when you say world revamp. I think a Kata-esque sort of world revamp has been needed for a long time now, just to kind of dust off the world, make it seem like a world again that's actually up to date. At this point, it's been so long that even though every zone has been used in some capacity, it feels like they're not used because nothing is relevant anymore. I think the way they're going to go about it is it's going to be something to do with the jailer, perhaps rewriting the universe in some small way before we defeat him or something like that. You know, we defeat him and he leaves his mark in some sort of way. I do also think this is going to be the time for the time skip. My guess is going to be maybe 10 years. We're going to return and it's been like 10 years and something's a little different. And then, I don't know, part of me thinks it could even be more. I doubt less, but I think 10 years seems about right. And maybe we'll return to a world where the Alliance is currently being, ran by Terralion.
I love it. I love it.
Could be pretty interesting.
I thought we left Asa Cloudsinger in charge. Come on, we can't have Terralion in charge of the Alliance.
I would vote for Asa any day.
Hell yeah. I would too. So she has 2 votes, and I'm just going to guess that a lot of Tishui Pandaren players would vote for her as well. She needs some lore. Her and G need some lore. I know that's like totally off topic, but they need some more lore.
They really need some lore. Holy shit. I was completely off topic here, but I was like, oh, I'll give them something to do in my What If Rexxar was War Chief timeline.
So we got our daily dose of Rexxar in the podcast today, guys.
Yep.
The Rexxar word was said on this week's episode. But just to follow up on Kai, I kind of could see that too. I think Zoval, because I was originally going to have this as a section, but I think Zoval is going to win in some way in the last patch of Shadowlands. I think Sylvanas is actually going to be left behind in Shadowlands at the end in some way, whether it's a redemption arc, whatever. I think her character arc is ending, which is nice to get away from that. I really miss... I don't hate Sylvanas, but I miss other characters in the spotlight. So I am curious what's going to happen with her, but I agree with you. I don't think Zoval is going to completely Thanos snap the universe. But I think he's going to somewhat succeed in recreating reality. And I could see the Cataclysm trailer, right? If they do another Cata expansion, Zoval doing this, reform parts of the planet or something. The light now invades our reality or something weird like that. If they get into more cosmic entities attacking Azeroth, which I know a lot of players are very much against right now. But I think Terralion's actually shaping up to be a really, in my opinion, like, I think he can be a freaking strong villain. It's like that scene with Illidan and Legion with him was scary too. Like, can we just talk about that for a minute with Zera and stuff? That was a scary ass scene. So the idea of having a leader like that in the Alliance, perhaps actually like contaminating the Alliance a little bit, having them get their hands dirty for a cause that he's going to believe is noble, is kind of like dark too, right? Like, and I don't think that follows the same storyline as like a Garrosh and Sylvanas type thread, because I believe in an interview with Ian Hazzikostas too recently, he teased that we're probably going to be able to team up with cross-faction soon for dungeons and stuff, which is a great move for the game. Now that begs the question, when they revamp the world, if they do revamp the world, is it going to be for one faction, or are the factions going to be together and working together, right? And then perhaps, like, gameplay-wise, it's a whole nother question, like, how does world PvP work? I imagine the same, but I wonder if they're going to have a narrative that both kind of follow throughout the revamped world. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I have some theories on that. I figured Skoll might have some words before I get into that, though.
I have a lot to say. I'm just letting you guys hash it out before I bloat up the rest of the podcast with my ideas.
It better be about Garrosh coming. No, I'm just kidding. I'm sorry, Kai.
No, you're fine, man. So I would say, and I really hope I'm correct here, because I've been like on the forums about this several times over the years. I really hope they're going with a system where the Alliance and Horde are going to exist in some capacity, but they're not going to be essentially all that encompasses your character. It doesn't make sense in the PvE environment anyway, but it does make sense in a PvP environment that there's going to be some holdout, I guess, whenever it comes to the faction war. I've always thought WoW would have been so much better if they sort of isolated that. That sounds kind of vague, but just as an example, you know, world content and things like that, you know, there's no reason to be at each other's throat unless you're in war mode, of course. But have both factions maybe have some of their characters that are like, oh no, I'm totally not against, or I'm totally against working with the other faction because of so-and-so, past grievances, differences in view, etc., etc. Could be your justification for having war mode phases. Easily
Peace
enough.
with the Alliance, Ha! Never mind.
Exactly.
we actually have a lot of characters set up thanks to BFA within both the Horde and Alliance that are just not okay with the armistice. Armistice. There we go. Because we have like Talanji, she still wants vengeance for her father. That has not gone away. Rokan's kind of supporting her. Jaina's loosened up a lot since BFA, which I'm very thankful for. I'm very happy she's kind of middle grounded, basically, where she's okay with working with the Horde again, and like, you know, she's budged with Thrall and Bane again, which is great. Obviously we have Turalyon. Turalyon and Illyria, I think, are like the top dogs when it comes to Alliance conflict, honestly.
Them and Shadows Rising, too. It was scary.
Shadows Rising honestly sets up so much. It's weird that it's like, it's supposed to be like the prequel to Shadowlands, but it honestly feels like it's building up to other stuff beyond Shadowlands.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too surprised if there's a bit of inspiration drawn from there.
100%. I think this is a small thing. My favorite scene in that book, I think is like kind of sad that some players probably missed out on it, is Rastakhan's funeral, or is like reuniting with Talanji rather at the end.
They already did his funeral, but
they did the funeral, but like that I meant to say the scene with Talanji.
Yeah, the reunion between Rastakhan and Talanji. It's a shame we didn't get that like in game or something, but that's all right.
Wait, Kai, did you finish the book?
No, I didn't.
Shoot. I'm so sorry.
I
totally forgot you were listening to it.
You're fine.
Wow,
I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
I was a little
Kai.
late. No, it's been how long? I should have finished. I got through like midway several times. This is the only reason why I haven't finished it. I got through it like to the midway point or even beyond that several times, and then like something in life happens and I get distracted, and then I start it back over again because I'm like, oh, I should refresh my mind on everything that's going on in the book. So, yeah.
Way to spoil a book, Box. I can't believe you.
I'm sorry, Kai.
Nah, it's nothing. Don't worry about it.
But do you have anything else you'd like to say in the intro before we get to Skoll?
Well, as for the speculation, I know I should probably hold off on hopes until later, but I do think we'll start to see a little bit more of maybe like racial focus. You know, maybe we'll see some more lore love for individual races and their respective, you know, cultures or something. I'm not too sure how to phrase that, but yeah.
Excellent. I hope we do. I think we talked in depth about this, but like race campaigns in BFA would have been fantastic and would have made how each race was dealing with War Chief Sylvanas and the war would have been very, very good. Like one of my favorite story moments in BFA actually was Bane's arrest, because you could see all the leaders' reaction afterwards. I
really like that moment.
And remember when they added G Firepuck?
That's how our friendship started, because of that cutscene.
It was.
Yeah.
It's funny that a little thing as they didn't add G Firepaw would start a friendship between me and Box.
And Kai too, actually.
Oh yeah, and Kai, but yeah.
That's how we met as well. Actually.
It's the start. It's the spark.
The Hoosian bring people together.
Inadvertently, the Hoosian being forgotten brought people together.
Oh.
I'm over here like, oh, they added Rexar, and then like I look over there and like, oh, where's G?
I'll never forget the day, Skoll, your reaction video to the 8.2.5 cinematic where you're like, yes! Oh my god!
Because I wasn't expecting it. They don't add him in anything. I was about to make a joke too, if you watch that video, where it's like, oh, I wonder if Rexar's here. No, they're not gonna add him. I don't even remember what I was gonna say, but it was just like, suddenly he's on screen. I was like, what? I ended up hurting myself because of that. That was great and painful.
That's how I'd react if I saw G Firepaw on screen in like a Terran Gregory cutscene.
Now I understand why reaction videos do so well.
We need to re-add Chen Stormstout and have him like put on his hat, and that's the cinematic.
I'd be down. So I think now to get back on topic, Skoll, do your speculation on what you think we're gonna get, and then we're gonna go to the wants. Like, what do we all want from patch 10.0, aka expansion number 10.
I feel like there's a mixture of both wants and speculation for me, but I don't think they're going to be doing a too large of a time skip. They really haven't done time skips before with WoW. Like at most they do like about a year for an expansion. I don't think they've gotten really far with that, so I'd be surprised if they would do a 10-year time skip, or you know, longer or smaller than that. I guess I honestly think that it's just gonna be like a year or two, maybe. It would be interesting though, but it also would be very scary for role players whenever you hear time skip, because there are characters who are like, you know, in their 60s or 80s or 90s. Oh, your character died of old age. I mean, it's fun for role players to kind of like put in that middle of like, oh, hey, my character was doing this during a 10-year time skip. Here you go. Here's a book. And as for like Zovol and stuff like that, I don't know if like too much of what he is about to do is going to affect the long haul of WoW. I think already it kind of does with like the Dreadlords and stuff, like, you know, because the Dreadlords are like his posse. They're his bros who are messing up with every other cosmic force. I feel like the Dreadlords might be more of that longevity that the Jailer has over the cosmic realm, but I'm not really sure. That we might get like a situation where like we stop him midway, but like he altered something, but I can't see them like doing an entire expansion or patch basically focused on an alter realm of the Jailer's creation. I don't think that would do so well, considering how WoD was taken.
Yeah, no more AU stuff, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't think that would go well. Like I think that a lot of players really just want to escape the jailer. I don't think the jailer did well as a villain, so I have the feeling that they're gonna throw him away. I feel like they're gonna do something with him, obviously, but in my own personal opinion, I would just use him to free Sargeras at this point, because Sargeras is...
I don't know why I just picture. I'm sorry, I shouldn't talk about this on the podcast, but I just pictured the scene in Toy Story where Andy's like, "I don't want to play with you anymore," and then Zobal just dropping at the ground. Poor guy.
I honestly feel like that's them with him though. Like, he is such a failed villain. I'm usually pretty positive about most stuff in WoW, but Zobal has like. I have not connected with him as a villain. Like comparing him to N'Zoth, and like, let's be fair here, N'Zoth is not like he's an interesting villain, but he's not like, oh, I can relate to this. But like, I think N'Zoth is just kind of cool. With like the jailer or Zobal, it's just kind of like, what are you? You're Squidward?
Oh my god, it all makes sense because he's bald. I have a theory all of a sudden about him. He's actually Manceroy reincarnated in the realm of death because he's bald.
Alright, there's the Manceroy joke.
This has been probably the most trolly episode of Kun-Lai Campfire.
That's alright.
Probably.
It's all about having fun, right?
It is.
I did have something to say. Like, I do think part of the reason why he's not so well received is, if I'm being honest, it's because Shadowlands in general doesn't feel very relevant at all in any way to the story of WoW. It's like the best like thing I could come up with is it's like a comic book crossover of your favorite, comic. Like, they're kind of doing a crossover with a comic you don't care about or something like that, and it doesn't feel very canon. And then he's the main villain of that other comic book. It's that same feeling, I guess is the best way I can describe it. It's like if you were super invested in if a Marvel and DC had like a crossover, and like you were super invested in the DC side, but your main villain was the Marvel villain. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that I've noticed, like with Zobal and a lot of Warcraft villains, it's always like they're trying to one up each other. Like, it's like, oh, I'm behind this. Oh no, I'm behind this. No, I'm behind this too. And it's just like, with the jailer, he's the creator of the Lich King. He's the orchestrator of the Scourge, Kel'Thuzad, Muzala, all this stuff, and like, it's harder to believe because you've got these more interesting and honestly far more antagonizing characters working for this guy that you've never heard of, and it doesn't seem believable. It just kind of seems like that doesn't sound right. That doesn't, like, it doesn't connect. But I didn't want to linger too much on complaining about Zobal here. I just want to say I don't know if too much of his influence is going to be seen after Shadowlands. It might, but I honestly feel like it's going to be, at the very least, it's going to be like the Dreadlords or Muzala or something. That's what I kind of see it as. I don't know if he's going to, like, recreate, a new continent on Azeroth or something. I have my doubts because of how negatively he's been received by the WoW community.
So, like,
we'll see, I guess.
I wouldn't particularly enjoy, like, him doing that, but the idea of him, like, creating a continent... gosh, someone might kill me for saying this, and I don't know why. Like, I thought about this, but, like, when you brought that up, Skoll, like, the idea of him Thanos snapping and, like, only part of the way succeeding and reforming Azeroth and, like, bringing back, like, a forgotten land is kind of interesting, but it's, like, at the same time, at least it would be, like, more grounded and on our universe and, like, a permanent part of it. That's kind of cool. I'm
just kind of concerned with the idea of, okay, he resets a part of the universe, or he resets Azeroth in some way. It's harder to connect with that universe because, again, you have a similar situation with Shadowlands and AU Draenor, where it's like, okay, how much am I going to care about this alternate reality? I want to get back to the, main universe. That's what I think, like, the main drive. Yeah, it's like the main drive is like everyone just wants to get back to Azeroth, and then, like, it's like a monkey's paw wish, and you're like, all right, you get Azeroth, but it's AU Azeroth, where Blackmoor is the king of
Mordor
no,
none of that.
Yeah, none of that. That's why I'm like,
if it was like a continent that became a part of Azeroth permanently, with, like, new races like we got in Pandaria, now that might be kind of interesting.
It would be really cool to see, like, a rip and tear of basically like you know, how Azeroth used to be. Like, you know how like Kalimdor used to be one big continent?
Mm-hmm.
And you'd basically have like everyone like reacting to what's going on. Why are we on one big continent now? Like they're not gone, but like the land itself for some reason changed. I don't know that I don't connect with that as much. But in my own personal like views of what, like skipping over the whole Zobal stuff because I'm talking too much about it.
He's now gonna be on the thumbnail.
Oh god. I would really like to in terms of like what I want the 10.0 to be and like us returning to Azeroth. Definitely a world revamp. I don't think a world revamp is necessary for Zobal to do it. I think that we're already kind of at a state and a point where like Azeroth has changed enough over the years because like as it stands, like the Barrens is still in the Cataclysm timeline for some reason when it shouldn't be. Stuff like that. So it's like I think that we've had enough time as it is already, even without a time skip, that we could have a world revamp. But a world revamp is also a lot for Blizzard to do. Cataclysm was like a big undertaking for them, like to the point where like endgame content was like bare minimum, like very small. I don't know how
they still did a pretty good job too, all things considered back then.
They
It was
did.
a necessary evil. I think it was. It was definitely a necessary evil. It had to happen.
Oh, it needed to happen. I honestly, like, I know a lot of people have their gripes with Cataclysm, but I'm not a big fan of the classic world at all. I tried getting into it a few years back with me and Box playing it, and I was just like, yeah, it turns out I like new Orgrimmar more than old Orgrimmar and stuff like that. So it's like Cataclysm was so necessary, and like it's kind of like a part of WoW more than Classic was, which is weird going forward. But I think
sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just agreeing with you, really.
Okay, yeah, I think a world revamp would be great, and honestly, it'd be so well received. I think that a lot of people would appreciate it, and it would bring a lot of people back. I just don't know how likely it is, given how much time it would take, how much resources it would be. I'd love to see it though. That's the thing. Like it's like priority list, you know, number one basically for me. Like I would love to see a revamped Durotar, a revamped, especially like cities in WoW. Like so many of the WoW cities are so outdated, especially like Silvermoon.
But and they're
like that.
deemed completely irrelevant in terms of the end game. I think that was another one of the saddest. I think that's one of the sad things that came out of Cataclysm was how the other capitals were just rendered completely obsolete. I'd love to see.
Yeah, I
like,
have a
some
few
kind of
ideas that I want to bring up when it comes to the wish list, but and we were actually talking about a little bit earlier with racial campaigns. But I would love to see a world revamp. But in terms of like what I think might happen, especially you guys kind of already touched on the stuff with Turallion, so I won't go too much into that. But one of the biggest ones that I've focused on the most would be the Dragon Isles. I would absolutely love for the Dragon Isles to become a thing. And it's been touched on a lot by the community, but like stuff like, you know, the Black Dragonflight being, you know, what's the word? Repopulated in some shape or form. Like, you know, Rathian and Ebonhorn and Sibelian are basically rebuilding their Dragonflights. You know, there's a lot going on with the Dragonflights. Like, you have the Bronze Dragonflight where they're dealing with Murazon's eventuality. You've got the Blues who are still suffering from, you know, the War of the Ancients, what Deathwing did to them. You've got Alexstrasza, you know, they can't even birth babies right now. That's another problem. And I feel like the Dragon Isles would be a perfect way to kind of fix that.
To take a quote from Blizzard themselves, with Magic, like, anything is possible. They could find some way to easily, like, forgive me for turning this into a verb, but lure in some sort of way that they could restore their numbers using magic or
yeah,
well, I
they
guess
could use a
chronomancy is
MacGuffin.
magic, but yeah, they could find a way to do it, and I think that would be better received than like drastic other drastic things that have happened. I think that would be one that nobody would really argue with. I mean, nobody's really clamoring for dragon fights to go extinct. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that...
Speak for yourself, Kai. No, I'm just kidding.
I think that the dragons are I think that what they want to do is make dragons feel a little bit more special and unique. Like, oh no, they're dying out. I've seen that a lot with like fantasies. Like, they always want to kill the dragons off in their fantasy world. Like, oh no, it's sad. But like, I feel like Warcraft, dragons should be a core part of it, especially when you think about the vision that Velen had, where he thinks about how Anduin's gonna lead the armies of the Alliance and Horde along with dragons to face the ultimate threat someday, which I think, yeah, that they need to build up with that with the dragons then. But
Dragon
like,
Isles is such a good setting too.
it really is. And like taking like like there's so much that they can do. They could honestly do a world revamp and include the Dragon Isles. I would love that, but that might be too much. Like, that we might get another BFA situation where it's like all of your eggs are in a basket, but some of them are spilling out and they're cracking and getting all over the place.
I ain't gonna lie, Skull. That sounds like it would be one of my favorite expansions if they did that.
Yeah, I was gonna say if they did something more humble. I don't know if that's the correct word, but something where we're not. I don't know. It feels like you said earlier. It feels like they're trying to like overdo or outdo the last thing to happen. And I think when it comes to the content in general, as well as the villains, of course, but the content in general, it seems like it's kind of doing that whole thing. I mean, I guess when you set the bar at Legion, I would say that was the bar. You know, like that was the bar of believability. I mean, I had thought prior to Legion that the Legion was going to be the last foe that we were going to face, if we were even going to face them. It was just this impossible thing that was kind of in the darkness of the lore that you were going to face one day. It's like death itself.
Chronicles always felt like they was building up to like, okay, the Legion is one big threat, but it's not the big threat. I always thought the Void Lords are going to be like the final big bad, but it definitely seems like they're building to do other stuff now.
So can I interrupt just for 1 second? Because you guys just triggered a thought on something. When you talk about villains and stuff, the reason villains like Lai Shen and Garrosh work so well is because they're literally just tyrants, right? When you think about it. Garrosh turned his own against him and wanted the orcs to succeed. And Lai Shen was the emperor of the Mogu who enslaved all of Pandaria. While they were like big threats and monsters, right? They seemed more grounded and believable in that way.
Yeah, I would say it's they had some sort of ideal behind them. I think that's a big important thing too whenever it comes to a villain. I mean, like, not to say the Jailer doesn't, because obviously he does. He wants to reinvent creation, and using like Sylvanas' dialogue and things like that, he at least convinced her it was to the benefit of some people.
I think one of the things I think that's really lacking with Zovol is a lack of build-up, because Garrosh had so much time of build-up that it seemed believable, at least to me. I know a lot of people argue. I actually had someone today who was like complaining about how Garrosh was manipulated by old gods, but Blizzard themselves even said that Garrosh was never manipulated by the old gods to do what he did. That was all him.
He does whatever he wants.
That was day one kata. Like, if you made a troll, like, immediately, like, Vol'jin was already thinking of leaving the Horde.
Yeah, like, it's very weird how many people think that Garrosh is so out of character in Mist, but no, they were building up to that point. I never once felt like, you're taking Garrosh a little too far, I think. No, like...
Mist was just when he really snapped. Like,
yeah.
Mist of Pandaria was basically just the breaking point with Garrosh, because everyone was done with his shit, and he realized that, so he had to basically make plans to contest against that. He basically was at a point where, I'm not giving up my title of War Chief. I don't know why you thought I would. And that's so funny, because when he started out, he was very unsure and uncertain of being War Chief, but as time went on, he gained the confidence and the growth to be this leader, and we don't have that with Zovol. Zovol, right off the bat, he's the big bad who created the Lich King, and it's like, what? No.
So we filled the quota, Skull, of Rexxar, Garrosh, and Mansaroy in the podcast.
I feel like there's gonna need to be like a little bar from now on whenever we do these podcasts that need to be ticked off. Like, how many times has Rexar been mentioned? How many times has Garrosh been mentioned?
What do you mean from now on? It's probably being included as we speak.
But Zovol is just really lacking of build-up, and I think that we just need a new villain or an old villain that can fill that bar. And I think that in terms of the Dragon Isles, I would love it to be Galakron or Chromatus, or both.
Can I make a hot take real quick?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
I
go for
fundamentally disagree with the grand villain thing, and I think some of the best times, well, I mean, we're Mists of Pandaria, that goes without saying, but like, Mists of Pandaria didn't feel like it had a great big bad at the start. It felt, I mean, of course your other faction was kind of the great big bad in a way, but Mists of Pandaria, it really gave that old, like, just adventurer feeling. I don't know, I like feeling like a small part of a large world. Like, I think it's become a little too centric on us and our role against some great evil. I think a good, like, as you mentioned, the Dragon Isles, I think that's a good chance for something like that. You know, we could be exploring a new place. We don't even know why we're there. We could land there by some strange circumstance. I mean, but I'm kind of bored of big single bad guys. You know what I'm saying? Like, solitary, I should say, not single. But
that's what I kind of liked about BFA, though, too, Kai, is like, while we had the faction threat, it was kind of cool not having a major bad guy, even though it was obviously Sylvanas. For, like, the intro, for the first few patches, like, we worked with Sylvanas, whether we liked it or not, against the Alliance. Like, we did, is the thing, and, like, it was nice not having a major threat then, either, because, like, Zandalar and Kultiras felt real, in my opinion. Some might disagree, but Zandalar and Kultiras felt really fleshed out, and like that was some of my favorite leveling I've done in WoW. Was BFA. Dolly and Dot were my best friend.
I think that a part of me agrees, but a part of me disagrees, because I feel like there is like this level of I'm getting tired of like big cosmic villains, but I do like having a villain at the end of the day. Like, I like having this. You know, in Wrath of the Lich King, we had the Lich King. He was the cover, he was the face of the expansion, and obviously Mists of Pandaria took away from that. You know, it went the direction of there are several conflicts and several threats. There's the Shah, there's the Mogu, there's the Mantid, there's Garrosh, and you know, like they did a decent job, I think, with building up to Garrosh being the big bad of Mists of Pandaria, where I liked it a lot. And I think the Dragon Isles could do something similar. I think it's mostly just I'm tired of the cosmic villains, like Zovol. Zovol is the prime example I'm using here, where it's like
it suspends belief in the universe. If I'm being honest with you, and again, makes your, I don't know, it just removes the whole ability to connect with your character and what they do. In my opinion, I really miss the old humble adventurer feeling that you would get.
I don't think we're gonna. Ian already admitted that we're not gonna be going back to that, because your hero has done so much. It makes no sense for them to kind of become a humble adventurer again. And they did say like they want to go back to, like, you know, just going back to Azeroth and dealing with those threats, but it doesn't seem like we're talking about, like, because this isn't a part of our wish list yet. I don't think we're going to return to the humble adventurer anytime soon, or if ever, really. I mean,
it would take a whole new World of Warcraft at that point.
Yeah,
I agree with that in some respects. I do think it's not impossible. They would have to really pull something drastic. And the JLR kind of presents that opportunity, if I'm being honest, like, to pull something drastic where we're not like this big deal. But
I don't think that would be received well either, though. So that's the problem. Like,
probably not.
We're jungle, like, I kind of like am in the middle ground where it's like where I felt like in Myst and BFA, where like I felt like our character was well known and respected enough, but like they weren't trying to think of the word. They weren't
Integral.
they didn't feel like the chosen one. And like, yeah, you had the Heart of Azeroth and all that shit, but like that didn't feel as integral or as important as it did in like Legion or in Shadowlands, where you're the Mawwalker, you're gonna save the day. Like Mawwalker has been very.
It's a meme.
I don't really like the Mawwalker thing, especially when it gets confusing because they're like there are other Mawwalkers too, and it's just like okay, where does it go? Where does it end? Like, are we all Mawwalkers? Is the Mawwalker special? Is it not special? And then you have like
I do like that there's more than one.
I don't hate that idea. It's just it confuses and it hurts my head.
Yeah.
It doesn't help that like Thrall is calling us the Mawwalker when like we've known him for years. Like Thrall, I'm call me champion. I'm not the Mawwalker. Stop.
You keep leveling up. Eventually, they're not gonna know what to call you.
Clearly, I've been to the guy's wedding. You know, it's just like it's calling me the Mawwalker, and it's like, is this like a new thing? Is this like a new nickname, dude? Like,
I was your first man. What are you talking about?
He just, I'm sorry, Banarak.
God, and that's when the PTSD kicks in with Box. But yeah, I think that in terms of like what I think that's going to happen, it's either gonna be the Turalian stuff with the Alliance. We're gonna have some inner conflicts with them and the Light and all that stuff. We could even have Yrel show up maybe and bring her Alliance posse of the Lightbound with them. We could have the Dragon Isles. We could have maybe Queen Azara and Xal'atath come back with some old god forces. There's a lot they can do. That's I think the beauty of 10.0, where like a lot of people think that there isn't a lot left to do in WoW, but there is. It's what I like about the game. It's still got a lot.
It does. I think it's crazy, right? Because like we've gone through so much lore, but it feels like we're getting not to the end game of WoW's lore, but we are getting kind of close to it. I feel like before a WoW 2 has to happen. Like I think we are at the end game of WoW's lore, because it like not like at the end of like it's finished, but the end of before we need to get back to a grounded adventurer type. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
I think that we have enough, because like what I liked about BFA was that it actually set up a lot of future expansions, and I'm sure they're going to do another one like that. And they could even do another Mist of Pandaria. What I like about Mist of Pandaria was it was entirely just a new, fresh look. Like it was just like, okay, here is new lore that was never brought up ever. You've never heard of it. You've never heard of these guys.
Except Chen.
Yeah, Chen. Well, the Pandaren as a whole were like a mystery for a while in Warcraft. They're like, who are these guys? Like, why is this guy here? Oh, he just wants to make some beer. Okay. It wasn't like too important, but like he brought up Pandaria back in Warcraft 3. And obviously that's like outdated lore because he's not from Pandaria, but it was enough to set up an entire expansion, which I thought was great. So we could easily have another one of those, especially like one of the things I've noticed that they've been doing a lot is they've been taking lore from like the game Hearthstone and applying it to WoW.
I love that actually.
I do too.
Hearthstone is a really like it's very interesting because like Hearthstone is very comedic and very funny, and like it's not to be taken too seriously, but they've taken ideas from it like the Tortollan or the Mean Streets of Gadgetzan and are like, yeah, those are canon. Those are part of WoW. And it's like, whoa. So
I think it's... Go ahead. I think that's some of the best things in WoW, though. Like, I think the races that, you know, they can be serious when necessary, but they have a fun-loving and, like, comedic side. Like,
yeah.
It doesn't have to be edgy to be interesting. Like, obviously it's kind of a Pandaren channel in a way, but using Pandaren as an example, you know, they're happy-go-lucky, you know, drunken bear people that, you know, do martial arts and all this other stuff, but then they have serious elements in their lore, like addressing the Shah and then, you know, the Shadowpan and all these other things. I
love how Mr. Pandaria, a lot of people are saying this is such a child's game now, when it had so many gritty and dark themes in it.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Box.
Oh no, like I just wanted to say, like, that's one of the reasons like why I like Pandaren so much is like, you guys know me, I'm kind of like a goofy, silly dude. So like I connect with the race in that way. And and I like their personality, their ideology, and visually they look badass. They look sick in armor, like especially, like Kai, you and I main Pandaren warrior, and that's literally my favorite one. They look so sick in plate. I'd argue
really
that Death Knights though. Zan, it's one of my favorite Pandaren characters. I love Pandaren Death Knights.
I'm warming up to the aesthetic for sure, pun intended. But I got to get that Antora set. I keep saying I'm going to do that. I love that Frosty Antora set ever since I got my... I could ramble on about that. Anyway.
When I start playing again, I should main Zan for a while now. I want to play him again.
Yeah, why don't you tell us what you're thinking about maining?
Oh, no. So for my viewers that watch me for Pandaren and stuff, I played Box. I'm not retiring the character Box on Machinima or anything, or even in game. Like, I'm still always going to play Box because he's my main, but I'm considering maining for PvE content a Zandalari and RP a Zandalari Paladin.
A Zandalari Paladin. Could you imagine the level of insult that takes to go from maining a Huojin Pandaren? Well, I guess the being Huojin doesn't really matter in this regard, but maining a Pandaren to a Zandalari. How could you betray us like this, Box? That's not a shot at Zandalari.
I'm sorry,
Zandalari
Chento.
Not even gonna play an orc.
I'm sorry, Bannerack.
We've been friends for almost like 3 to 4 years now. I don't even know anymore.
Just picture Tzinzi, the Zandalari Paladin, and Orgrimmar asking Bannerack for gold.
Great, you've made him even worse now.
Oh yeah, he's cheap.
You've made him into a Zandalari Paladin beggar.
Yeah, he's just a cheapskate.
Great.
He charges for heals.
It's going to be in his backstory that his job was to like do research on Mansaroy to find a way to bring him down or something like that.
I'm gonna fucking write him like that. I'm gonna write him like that.
He didn't even do his job. He didn't even do it.
Poor guy. He was created in BFA. He was a nice troll.
Well, that's why he's begging for gold. He didn't do his job right. So then Talanji's like, no, you're ostracized.
Get out of here. You're banished from Zandalar. Go to Orgrimmar,
now I want to main this character. Now I want to main him.
my god.
What have we done? Oh my god.
I'm excited now.
What
I
have
can't
I
wait for
done?
I can't wait for 9.2.
9.2. Yeah.
So
it feels like forever.
So we're at like 43 minutes right now, and we've talked about a lot of actually speculation, even though it's kind of like we went back and forth like Zoval 10.0, Zoval 10.0. I think that was a good discussion so far. For the last like 15, 20 minutes, I want to do like a want list of what we want. I'll start with mine first because I'm toxic like that. Dear Blizzard, my name is Box, and I want Broken, Draenei, and Mok'Nathal playable, please. So, like, real talk, though, one of my big wants for the next expansion is more allied races. And if they could do new skeletons, I know it's a shitload of work, that would be amazing. Because one of my favorite things of any expansion is when a new race is released. It's like Pandaren, Goblins, Blood Elves, Draenei, Worgen. Those are some of my favorite races they've added to World of Warcraft, specifically the Draenei and the Pandaren. For allied races, I'm a fan of the Nightborn, the High Mountain, the Zandalari are my favorite, actually. But there's a lot of potential with that system, and I don't think it should be left in the void in BFA. I think when the story presents the time to do it, it's a great time to add more. Or, like, I actually like how, like, you can unlock the Darkshore eyes for the Night Elves. Like, stuff like that's really cool and can go a long way. But yeah, more customization as long as they continue that. Hell, look at 9.1.5. It's a patch of just customization, and look at how happy it made a lot of the player base. Like, seriously.
It really did,
The
honestly.
High Mountain glow up was so good.
It is.
Found, like,
it
my
is
High
really
Mount-
good. I actually
High-
started playing my High Mountain just because of it.
I finally feel like I can play my High Mountain Tauren a little bit more. I feel like, because now he's got like a broken antler and shit, and he's got like, tail customization. It's really neat, honestly. They did a lot of, really cool stuff with the new allied races, and I'd love to see more.
Broken Draenei, I would literally, so like, Pandaren will always be my favorite race, but I would probably main a Broken Draenei if they made Broken playable. Like, legit, I love Broken so much. They're so cool.
We fall in a very similar category, my friend, although you already know my answer of what I want to play more of.
if they ever do introduce Broken, I really hope they're OP, like super OP, like just amazingly OP or racial, so people are just gonna be like, they're so broken. And it's gonna be so worth it.
Do you guys remember the speculation, like even in 8.2, people had for the Ankoan and the Gill Goblins? Like, I would have loved the Gill Goblins. Just saying, that would have been awesome.
Yeah, I did like the Gill Goblins.
Are you saying that you don't want Volpera?
I don't know why I can't get into playing Volpera. Like they're just, I don't know. Like they look cool. They remind me of like Ratchet from Ratchet and Clank, but like I haven't been able to level one from start to finish yet.
I understand that.
I kind of like, I enjoy them aesthetically. I like their cultural, like it's going to sound kind of strange, but I like the implication of their culture because they don't have very much lore. But I guess it's kind of cool. But yeah, they definitely need some lore love, I guess.
They fit in the Horde very well, though. Like they do fit in the Horde.
Yeah.
I really liked Voldoon, honestly, as a leveling zone. I haven't done BFA leveling in forever, but I remember really enjoying BFA leveling as a whole. Like, there wasn't really, like, a zone that I was like, I don't like this zone.
Oh, they were all great.
I felt that on Alliance side, but on Horde side, I loved all of Zandalar. Zandalar was just... It was right up what I wanted, basically. Like, I know a lot of...
It was perfect.
I give BFA all the praise whenever I can, but, like... It was the expansion I needed after Legion. It really was. I
did not enjoy Nazmir at first, but after a point, it actually became maybe my favorite zone in BFA. I don't know how to explain that.
I really like the story.
Maybe it's just the Blood Trolls. I didn't really care for the Blood Trolls at all, and I know a lot of people really loved them. But then when they got to the Tortollan and like that other stuff, like I really enjoyed that.
When we got to the Torga thing, in that I was I got really sad because I really like animals. So it's like, oh, he's dead. And the thing about it is they reused the model of Shenzhen Zoo for it. So like when I saw that, I was like, oh my god, it's dead Shenzhen Zoo. This is sad.
That is horrifying.
I remember after I did that quest, I was like, because Torga, you know, he survives. He basically like reincarnates as a baby turtle. I was like, you know what I want someday? I want that turtle to meet Shenzhen Zoo and the other turtle from Nordersil. I just want all three wild god turtles to meet each other.
Do you know what goes a long way for me too when like they do like an expansion in the story? And they did it in Shadowlands too when they described the realms, but I liked the scene where Talanji's telling you about all the threats. Like I think like a character like General Jekrazet is a cool villain to have in his zone. Just for like even just that zone, you know, how we deal with him and stuff.
That guy was a dork.
He was a dork, but it was still cool to have like Talanji talking about him and how he was like always in like Rostakon's ear and stuff. Like I like BFA's leveling a lot.
I honestly wish that Prophet Zul got away. He was such a cool villain. Same,
actually.
The build up from him in Cataclysm into MOP and then into BFA, it just felt like it was like building up to him. Again, build up for a villain is really important, I think. And
yeah, that's exactly what I was heading on earlier with the Dragon Isles point, is like I felt like that's another opportunity to do that MOP-esque sort of build up for new characters. Doesn't even just have to be new villains, but just new characters in general. Set them up for something later. They can hint at the existence of certain things, make players be like, oh, what's this cool little artifact? Oh, look at this. This seems like this is really cool. I wonder what this is actually about. But don't elaborate on it right away, you know? Just give it time. Hint at it. Throw in the breadcrumbs until people are crying out to know more about it, rather than opening up with the jailer. If we had clues of the jailer's existence or things like that, I think it would have gone a lot. It would have been way better received.
I wish he wasn't bald too, though. Like real talk. I think
so
his
much
design
better.
is horrible.
His new design looks so much better.
Yeah, with the helmet and stuff.
Like I get that he was supposed to be like basically just like a prisoner, and that's why he looks so bad. But I really feel like he should have been like... So what I would have done instead was he would have still... He would look the way he does in his, you know, in prison setup. But like, as he would appear to us, he'd like basically like do like visionary magic basically to make himself look cooler and more terrifying. But like, have it be like a scene where we first see the real version of him, where like he is like in prison and stuff. so like we see the real him. I feel like that would have been better received, because then you would have gotten that same level of, oh my god, this guy's terrifying, to then, oh, this guy's actually pretty pathetic.
Also, why does he have a telescope?
That
why
whole
on earth
telescope
does
thing.
he have that?
He needs to look where he's shooting his thing to tuck in Shadowland Islands. I don't know why. That is so weird. Like, the Afterlife has, like, islands. It's so weird. Like, I think the Shadowlands really feels way too physical sometimes.
It does.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel very distinct from the living world.
It doesn't feel like an Afterlife. Like, that's kind of weird, because Legion felt more like an Afterlife. With Helheim and the Halls of Valor.
Yeah, actually, you're right about that.
Like, Bastion actually legitimately feels like an Afterlife.
Maldraxxus doesn't really, to be honest,
Ardenweald,
even though I like it.
Ardenweald I could see being an Afterlife, actually. It does a pretty decent job of it feeling like, you know, this is where... Yeah, but it still also feels very lifelike. That's the problem. Like, it doesn't feel like...
Same with Revendreth. It feels like there's too much life in Revendreth.
You know what's a shame? The fact that the Emerald Dream feels more like an Afterlife than any of them, even though it's not even supposed to be an Afterlife.
Yeah, it really does. I don't know. It's one of those weird things. I don't want to harp on the expansion too much, but it's kind of one of the things I wish we didn't have elaborated on. Like, there's some things that are better with a sense of mystery.
It should have. Yeah. I feel like Shadowlands would have been better received if it was like, you'd go to, like, you know, like in Wrath of the Lich King, you actually would go to the Emerald Dream for like one quest, and like it would give you like a little like nod to it, basically. I feel like Shadowlands would have been better received, or like Legion. Legion's a better example, actually, where like you go there for like a dungeon or a raid, and like you can go in there for a little bit to like quest or whatever, or it's like your order hole or something. I feel like it's just like less is more for Shadowlands.
It is.
Like, it should have been a revamp to Northrend, and then like you go to the Shadowlands sometimes to like see what's
Holy
going on there.
crap, that actually sounds like a really fun expansion.
Exactly.
And if they had done that, it would have felt more grounded, and people wouldn't have had as big of a... Oh my!
That's what I thought Shadowlands was gonna be when they announced it, to be honest with you. So
and there could have been they could have added new islands around Northrend too. Like, I always like when they added that hub in 3.3 that was north of the Argent Tournament. Like, it's kind of creepy too, right? In the North Sea and stuff. Like, there could have been more stuff around there. There could have been more lore for the Nerubians. We could have had to maybe go under Northrend or something. Oh, Skoll. Why?
I know. I have.
The tangent is real right now.
It could have been like, that could have been Sylvanas' endgame or something. Like, returning to Northrend, and like, now after all the souls died, like, oh my god. Like, Zoval could have been pulling...
Cause like, you know how like they have like the Broken Sky and Ice Crown? I always thought it would be like, okay, we need to go back there and do something with it. Like, I'm still waiting for them to be like, alright, how are we gonna fix this? Do we need to repair the Lich King helm? Cause like, that's what I keep thinking of.
Literally...
That may be how we seal... That may be how we end the Shadowlands, is we've got to like reforge the crown and... Oh, jeez, could you imagine crowning a new Lich Queen?
I think Bolvar's... I feel like Bolvar needs to become the Lich King again. I feel like he was done dirty as a Lich King, and needs to... He seems okay with it, is the thing. Like,
I think he's going to.
I think his daughter might try to urge him not to, but he'll be like, no, I need to do this. Or like... Maybe, and this is like, I know this is something that people have talked about, but maybe like Sylvanas is gonna become the Lich Queen, as like, not like in terms of like, I'm a powerhouse now, I'm gonna get vengeance at you guys. More like, this is my penance for being bad. That's the only other character I could think who could take on the charge of Lich King if they bring him back, or it back.
Talia's hip and fit.
Sorry?
Oh, just that.
Sorry, you said Talia.
Talia's hip and fit. That's about it.
She is pretty hip
I think the Sylvanas idea you just mentioned, her becoming the Lich Queen, is kind of a fair enough neutral ground for the hard stands and the hardcore haters.
I feel like it'd be... I mean, it lets her live on, but also lets her not really be able to do much. because
Well, she could
Bolvar-
find relevance again someday.
Yeah,
she
that's-
could
they
be
could-
relevant again someday, but I think it's in general for the people that don't like her, they've got Sylvanas fatigue seriously.
Oh yeah.
And then for the people that do like her, give them time to breadcrumb them some interesting things, to look forward to maybe one day hearing from her again.
Yeah, that's kind of. I feel like you could really just Illidan Sylvanas basically, where you put her on a
Yes.
because
Yes.
I feel like that's the most. I'm kind of at a point where I'm kind of just accepting the fact that she's probably not going to die because of how much of a fan base that she has. And it's weird because like all other characters who typically have a fan base, their characters still die. Like Varian still died no matter what. But it's like it's something I'm kind of just accepting, and it's just like whatever. Like just give
Vol'jin,
me a break.
Garrosh.
Okay, at least with-
Vol'jin is the most heartbreaking for me. I really
Same,
liked Varian,
same.
but Varian was he was one of my favorite faction leaders, to be honest with you. But he had a lot of screen time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He's been around a while.
me and we
but
it's a shame that you
Vol'jin-
weren't here for our last one.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, life happens, work happens. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, Vol'jin, man, that one's always gonna be a little difficult to get over. I almost would be, even though I think a lot of people would look at it as a cop out, if they were to be like, okay, well, this happens and Vol'jin is back to life. He's just completely himself now. Like it just was completely undone. It's kind of a cop out, but it to me it'd be fine.
He's one of the only characters I would be okay with them doing that with, to be honest
Yeah.
with you. Like, they did him so dirty in Legion that, like,
Yeah.
I get so mad when I watch that freaking cinematic of him dying on the throne.
His death was almost a footnote. It really felt like a footnote. It was like, oh no, Varian died. Look, Sylvanas is War Chief. Also, Vol'jin died. Oh yeah,
War
so much is going on. War Chief.
I'm glad that he's coming back as a Loa though. That's like one of the, BFA set that up and then Shadowlands solidified it. That's like there's a few good things in those expand. Well, I think there's a lot of good things in BFA, but with Shadowlands at least they're like, yeah, Vol'jin's gonna become a Loa. So thank God for that, because he was done so dirty. Okay. I already talked about how I'd loved for, World Revamp and Dragon Isles and all that. Earlier we talked a little bit about it, but I would love racial campaigns. Where basically your city would be your hub, kind of like an order hall. They would be revamped, remade, and made important again, and this would be like where your racial leaders would hang out, your racial champions would hang out. Like, let's talk like, Thrall, he just came back from the Shadowlands and he's got a job to do as the leader of the orcs, and they focus on like Rexxar and Eitrig and Nazgul and Nazgrim and stuff like that. And you'd follow their story and follow like, the cultures and stuff. Like I feel like this would be a really good way for like so many races in WoW that have been like given the shelf, like Pandaren for especially. Like you'd finally get some lore on G Firepaw and Asa and the Pandaren as a whole. Like, what have they been up to since Mr. Pandaria?
And that's so necessary too. Like, that was my biggest complaint all the way back in like Legion, to be honest with you. Is like some races get a spotlight and some don't, and like,
yeah,
I think race campaigns, if they could do that, would be amazing. Like, even literally every expansion, to be honest with you. Like, I know that'd be a shitload of work.
That would be a
but
lot
even
of
just
work.
Well, even just like one quest though is the thing. Like one quest.
I just
that,
really,
like-
I really just want races to be relevant again, because it feels like it's been forever since like we've gotten lore. You know what race hasn't gotten much lore? Dwarves.
Holy crap! Yeah, I forgot
When was the
about
last
them,
time
to be
dwarves
honest.
were relevant in the lore? Besides Magni. Yeah. Like, at least with Blood Elves, they had Nazjatar and Suramar. Like, I know a lot of people, like, it's really weird that people, like, saying, Blood Elves don't get any lore, but then I look at Dwarves and Tor, and I'm like, ugh, you poor guy. Like, at least Tauren got High Mountain lore and stuff like that, but, like, yeah, I don't think Dwarves have been very relevant for a very long time, which is, like, one of those things where it's like, yeah, I think racial holes would be a really good solution. Plus, it would make cities relevant too.
Right.
In terms of wishlist, I'll try not to drag on the episode too long, but I would just say very similar. I would just wish for more of a racial focus in some regards. It's almost like the Legion class halls. Just take that sort of scheme and apply it to races. Maybe not quite to that degree, but definitely enough to flesh out races a little bit each time, at least at the start of an expansion. Give them a little bit of a template to work with as they work through an expansion in a different plot. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah.
Do you guys have anything else you'd like to talk about today?
I really just hope 10.0 is all that we're hoped for, and that's back on Azeroth.
Same.
Like, that's all I really think I need for the expansion to be good. Just back on Azeroth, Horde and Alliance are relevant again, characters are relevant again, and maybe we get to see Rexar and Chen hang out. I don't know. Just anything.
I feel like that's been the moral of this podcast, is we're all looking for something a little more homey, a little more Warcraft feeling, and less Thanos-y. That's probably
no more. I think we really just need a break from Cosmic Realms, because if they go from Shadowlands to Light Realm or Void Realm or whatever, I'm gonna be tired.
No more.
I need to go back to Azeroth.
We need a breather. We need a breather expansion for sure.
We do.
Anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining as usual. Check out Jikai and Skoll on YouTube. Kai is at Jikai, and Skoll is at Skoll Shorties. And you can always find me at Box and Jackalope, doing my machinima podcast thing, eating pizza, burritos, and also doing the comic book guy voice. But I guess I'll end it on this, right? We'll end it with a good. We'll end it like we started. Are you ready? Thank you so much for watching this video. If you like it, please leave a like and make sure you click that bell icon. And yeah. So thank you for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.
Oh, yeah.